Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
Trevor.
I'm Ari.
I'm not hungry anymore.
You're Charlie.
I know.
And I'm Josh. And today we're going to be going over Oil of Dog by Ambrose Bierce.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely not hungry now.
We went over an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge back in Season 4.
And we almost got a chance to go over it again, but it lost by one vote to Hal.
Yep. And Trevor is the one that selected this, and as per the Tory Reynolds mansplaining law for discussion starters, Trevor, you have the discussion starter?
What's
Before I do the discussion starters, I just want to give an apology in advance to the ASPCA and the PETA, owing to the thematic material of this particular story. Okay. For those of you who are curious, there are dogs' deaths involved in this one. Spoiler alert. Then again, that's how the story got to the name.
And children and babies. Spoiler.
And crazy stuff. And a cauldron, apparently.
Mm-hmm. I would have given a Society Prevention of Cruelty to Babies, but I don't know if any such society exists. But that's enough of my digression. I have, much like Charlie had for his discussion starter for the Nightmare Room Thrillology.
Please don't mention that again.
My profusest apologies.
Oh,
I, too, have 3 discussion questions.
Oh, 3, yeah.
1, do you think there's a possibility that industrialism can go too far as it possibly did in this particular story? 2, is it possible to be too loyal to family, as it seems the protagonist was in this story? And 3, is this protagonist, Boffer Bings, really as a good person as he thinks he is, or is there some shadow lying underneath the surface that we don't seem to know about?
Yes, yes, and no.
Number 1, it is pretty much, to me, it's, if you take the Lorax and make the subject matter about dogs, babies, and children.
And so you make it into a short story.
Yeah, it's a darker version of the Lorax, and targeted, in this case, you would say adults, but this is classified as a tall tale in the complete short stories of Ambrose Bierce collection.
Ooh. I won't need it, I promise.
There were a couple points of it that didn't feel like completely real, but it is not quite the Lorax, because the Lorax was like a kid's book. This is a short story, and it's like you said, it's darker.
It's the same subject matter where you're taking from... You're taking the gifts of society.
They also have silly names in it, like Boffer Bings. What's worse, Boffer Bings or the Onceler? I mean, neither of them are very appealing names.
I think that's supposed to be an attention grabber. Number 2,
might as well call him Bonsler.
As far as, I think there's an extent where you have to take into consideration whether or not what your parents are doing is right or wrong. Where I think that Boffer Bings he was of an age where he's going to do what he feels is, he thinks what his parents are doing is, there's nothing, to him there was nothing wrong with it. I think that in a way, take it, not just using these living beings, but taking them, these were lost dogs that were leaving their homes, so technically, instead of returning them to their owner, you are stealing them for your own profit.
This is a very difficult, for me personally, because I've been through these experiences a lot, where parents are clearly doing the wrong thing, like clearly, but the child doesn't recognize it, and it's just
because they don't know much else.
Right, it's so frustrating to see it, and then I mean, with me, like the people I know about, they're older than 18, so they know that they have the choice to make that decision, and then in the end you have the public meeting, which is exactly like, that's the most important step, because in this case it's a little more primitive, but nowadays you've got courts and you've got legal stuff, and
checks
you've got
balances,
just
all that
and you've got general people
the
who
question
can even
is
meet mediators.
The question is, how old is Boffer Bings?
No, it doesn't even say.
Especially during this period of time, because back in the day...
Is there something back there, Josh?
No, I'm just putting my arm here.
Okay, just checking.
By the time you were 10, you were seen as an adult.
Pretty much.
And
there was no such thing as child labor law, NLRBA.
But
national,
as far as number 3 is concerned, I know Ari has a definitive no. You're only getting it from his perspective, but it was the fact of the matter is he was being the footman to his parents. As far as what his mother was doing, in most cases he would have thrown the baby in the river. But because there was a constable, he was in a trapped situation. It was either go out and get caught or dispose of the evidence. He decided to dispose of the evidence. But that was a huge turning point where you had their best finished product yet, and these parents were greedy. They were profit first.
They had their karma in the end.
Pretty much.
And I really do have the boils, burns, whatever. But like the thing is that this is a story where
it's a story of a girl. Sorry,
we're not. I told you we're talking about boiling, not drowning.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, folks.
Anyway, what I was saying is that
my inner white girl.
I was saying that the thing is with this is it very much applies to a lot of stuff happening, at least in my personal life, where like people are doing things that are mean. Maybe not in this story, but just the effect will be the same.
Mm-hmm.
Mean, disrespectful, specifically to me, rude to me. You know, they will do stuff to me, and I've literally done nothing, and they will just be as rude as possible. And I used to try and always, like, tell them, no, you're wrong. I'm a perfectly fine guy, but they don't listen. So after a while, I was kind of like, okay, fine. You want to say that about me, and you're going to treat me disrespectfully, and you're going to treat others disrespectfully, then karma's going to come and bite you in the ass.
This is more than mean, disrespectful, rude. This is immoral.
This is immoral, yeah. I mean, it's the same general thing.
Yeah,
this is people of authority.
Josh, can you hear me out for 1 second? It's just the ending. The effect is the same. Is that, you know, karma is going to come back and bite them in the ass. These, whether you're talking about immorality or immaturity or disrespectfulness, whatever negative word you're using. Like, when you do that and you've hurt me enough, I just say, okay, you know what? Karma's going to bite you in the ass. I don't know when, I don't know how, I don't know where, but it's going to. You let that happen to yourself. Have a nice day. And in a way, that's kind of what happened here. The parents got enough and they scalded themselves.
They got what they deserved.
Yeah,
but because if they didn't do that, it would have...
It happened another way.
Yeah, it's something they would have gotten...
Drowned in the river.
Trouble. They would have hanged them.
Yeah. And it also mentions the father was a deacon in the church. So how are you... a man of God.
Oh,
the doctors were involved in this plot too, because that's what they were doing. They were making money off the doctors.
Exactly.
Charlie, ever heard of Jeff Newlander?
No, but
he's a rabbi who shot his hired a hitman to shoot his wife.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And then
there's not just because you have that title, you can actually abuse the title.
That's what I'm saying.
You have the priests. So often you hear about them and their
that's
little things
young
that
boys.
They're dallying, if I may.
Yeah, it goes back to the Middle Ages. Even before the Middle Ages, priests, monks, they were known to be very merry and to be. You would have to pay for your penance. But long story cut short, I agree. Just because if you're a man of God, how are you doing this? And I don't mean you, the viewer. How is, like, let's say it was me. I'm a man of God. But I'm going to go and do this, and this, which is all against.
There are people out there who become men of God because they don't care about their lives. They just want to do whatever's easiest.
Exactly.
And that's what they think is the easiest path in life. And then they go and say, okay, I'm now a powerful person. I can do whatever I want.
And that's their crutch.
But
there
are, to distinguish, in particular countries, dog is used for consumption. They eat dog.
Do you mean domesticated dogs or wild dogs?
It's I would say either. You would hope it's wild. I would think either or. I
hope it's not domesticated.
But the fact of the matter is, these were dogs that were owned by other people. these were dogs that got loose, but instead of returning them to their homes,
Right.
he puts them in his cauldron and
I can imagine, Josh,
cooks
that
them.
this is really a serious thing for
Yes.
you. A very strong story for you because you grow up, basically on a wooded farm where you have all these animals you take care of, and animals are really big. I'm sure. I know she's not here right now, but I'm sure Sarah Zoins would also probably feel this
Hi, Sarah
story
Zoins.
very strongly because they're we're
Yes.
all, and I'm sure your
Rachel
girlfriend as
Johnson
well.
Walsh.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be. I wasn't on this property my entire life, but
Well, I know.
I've had animals my entire, and I've always lived in a house with at least
And so
one
just to
dog.
hear like a dog
But
not being brought where it should be and it's used
Yes.
for some immoral purpose, that must
in
hurt you.
this case, it was pretty
Must-
disgusting.
It must have been a tough.
But
read.
I thought it was very disgusting what they did to the babies and the children too.
Was it? May I ask? Was this a tough read for you?
I think that it was. I think that there was something about it that was repulsive, but I knew that this is a written work, and the parents got what they deserved.
So, okay, so you were good with it
Yes,
then.
I can stomach it because I read horror. So
True.
there's
To me, this is horror.
but I think that
And this was also classified as a tall tale.
This is so it's not like if this was
Michael
ongoing,
Vick.
he got what he deserved.
Yeah.
Too.
Wait, if there's a
But
tall
if-
tail, is there a short tail? Sorry.
Um,
Sorry.
But otherwise, but I do feel that if they were just doing this and glorifying it, then this would be immoral, and I would tear it apart. But this is a cautionary tale, a tall tale, where
Right.
A dark satire.
It's kind of like
and
it's kind of
it
like
makes
a
us
monkey
think
in a way.
in a way. But has anybody ever watched the movie Soylent Green?
No, I haven't. Have you?
Nope.
Soylent Blue, but that's
Soylent Green is a movie about
What about Silent Night?
it's
Look
it's
at
a
all the
finish.
old eyes.
It's turning humans into it's eating. It's pretty much cannibalism where they
There was
grind
there
the
was an
bit.
episode
But the
of
way
Torchwood
that,
where it was all cannibalism too.
but it's like I know in Futurama they did a spoof about it with Iron Chef and the secret ingredients was Soylent Green. But the way that they did it was very similar to this, where it's not. They don't really talk about the graphic images. It's just they go into the building, and then just the finished product. Yeah. So they throw whatever it is into the cauldron, and then you have the oil, which in this case is all can for oil of canine.
Yeah.
So the two parents basically get scalded and boiled, and it becomes a Soylent Night.
Not really.
Oh, brother.
I mean, and again,
and I think my puns were bad.
It was interesting that you were the one that tossed that pun into the cauldron. But
could I say one thing,
folks?
Yes.
I think that was a jab at me.
No, I don't. I wanted to say one other thing. Being that this is also about
Whoa! You don't need to attack the paper.
You're right. I don't.
All right, what were you saying?
No. About it being. This is at a time where the Industrial Revolution, or this is when we had chimneys going up, we had factories going up.
Bierce wrote primarily during the later 19th century,
So,
early
yeah.
20th century.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that.
Yeah. I wanted to just tie something up there. There were no child labor laws. There were no unions. There were no nothing.
Wait, could this be like Upton Sinclair's Animal?
The Jungle?
Yeah, The Jungle. Excuse me. Is it kind of like that?
His was more so.
I did that.
His was more of a commentary about the Industrial Revolution. His was a bit more realist.
Okay, but is it similar to that kind of what kind of happened in the story, except it was more the moral side of it?
More so the moral. I
Or
need
the
to read
realistic
The
side
Jungle,
of it.
but his mainly.
That's another thing. The
those
next time I
explored
get a chance,
sweatshops.
the next time I get a chance to select a book for literary gladiators, that's one I want to do if we haven't already done it.
It would be something to explore for sure.
But the last thing what I was trying to say was, being that this was also a time, no matter what, there's always going to be a section of people who are working. They're the working class, yet they can still be considered poor. Because all they do is work, and the next thing you know, bam, there's the money. It's gone. Like kids, my wife, you name it. Work, expenses, school, you name it. Whatever it is. Long story cut short, once the money starts coming in, obviously because this is a popular product, the money starts coming in fast and quick. It's like it's gonna go to your head eventually. You know, like we're making big money here, but just by doing this. You know, I don't have to be that deacon anymore. You know, I don't have to do this. I can do what I want, and by you know that's what got me. You know, especially at that time where everything, well, not everything, but a lot of this was primitive, as in today's standards. It just doesn't sit right with me. I mean, am I making any sense on that? Because
I guess you could call it industrial de-evolution.
You could, yeah, you could. You know, I mean, even today we work typical.
I think some of it was revolution and some of it was de-evolution. Like even realist, even if we're talking about real life.
Let's put it this way: as humanity, I feel we take one step forward, and 5 back.
One step forward and 2 steps back.
I mean, as far as resources are concerned, it's a seesaw effect, where even anytime we're using something for our own personal consumption, we're taking it from something from
the source.
You're taking everything this old earth can
Worse,
give.
we're taking something that's not ours to
And we
take.
ain't put back nothing. Whoa, whoa.
Do we have any final thoughts?
I thought it was a good warning.
I agree with that. I think it was a very thought-provoking piece that you could think of.
I'm not so sure it dated that well, but it was still a good.
I think I wrote in my notes that it was, it was either before its time or of its time, because in a way we take. Granted, it's not like we are taking things that are not ours, but we are taking living beings and sources for our own personal gain, and the way that we're doing it, it's very greedy and immoral.
So it's safe to say a lot has changed, but a lot has not changed, and a lot has stayed the same.
I don't know if this is a commentary on
Are you more amazed
veganism, though. I would have my doubts about that.
Or how they stay the same.
I'm hungry.
Already.
That hasn't changed.
Do you have anything, Trevor, you wanted to say before we closed?
Well, it definitely sounds like you said, whether or not it's before its time or of its time, it definitely sounds like a good cautionary tale for those of our generation and the generations coming.
I know.
Providing, of course, there are more generations coming, and I certainly hope that there are.
I mean, you're okay with if I made a reference to the Holocaust?
That's fine. I was actually just talking to him about the devil's arithmetic before.
Because when it comes to objectifying people for their own, retail use back in the Holocaust,
some of the stuff that came out of the gas chamber was
the dead about that. Jewish bodies, they made them into soap and sold them, which is as sickening as it gets.
Yeah.
And this is where this book, being before its time, kicks in.
Very, very unfortunate.
And
to say the least. Very least.
But if you're interested in checking out the complete short stories of Ambrose Bierce, here is a copy. This was a very great grab. And
Patrick Gutenberg.
Hey, Trevor, who gave you this book?
Josh, I profoundly thank you for this one.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad that you are enjoying it. I know that you suggested this one, and definitely thought you should have a hold of that and everything else that Bierce has written.
And Josh gave me a book, and I'm digressing slightly, gave me a really beautiful book of Thomas. I mean, I'm a man-child again. Thomas the Tank Engine. And I cannot put it down.
A good writing book with the Literary Gladiator Journal. So.
You're not. You are not a. You're not a man-child. You play. You like to play with trains at Barnes and Noble, but
no comment.
Be sure to join us next time for another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now,
Silent night, oily night, burn your face, rise into space.
Chicken nuggets!
Deck the cauldron for love and life. Save all the dogs from strife. Thank you.
And keep reading.
He's sucking his thumb, man.